I've had some fun with it too. It's like it's been an opportunity for a lot of fun PR stuff to do with that character. Yeah.
Can you say anything new about the ties between the Portal universe and the Half-Life universe?
Not this show. That was that get killed. But
What was it like following up? You know, as you said, it was very well received. It became many memes. I don't know how many still like leaders currently here. So how was that following up on when you sat down to create the story?
That's an incredible amount of pressure. It's the same kind of pressure when we were building Half-Life 2, where there was this game that a lot of people have very strong feelings toward, and we look at it like we have this service that we need to provide, which is entertainment in this franchise that we happen to own. It's terrifying. We definitely spent a lot of effort making sure we understood the kind of game that fans wanted us to build. I think that was kind of the key good decision that we made from it, was not going off and building some other kind of game, but really thinking it through, and then testing it with a bunch of Portal 1 fans, bringing them into the office, watching them play, asking questions, how does this compare to what you expect, and two being a huge amount because of that. Yeah.
With but like you said, you got to be careful not to overcomplicate the design.
Yeah.
Because the first game, I think part of its appeal is its purity. I mean, certainly there were very simple mechanics that you had to find clever ways to utilize. But you're obviously adding a lot more. I mean, was that a lot of debates going internally? Not to go too far with overcomplicating things.
A lot of what it. Portal 1 was a pretty short game. So there wasn't a lot of room for us to add a lot of mechanics. We could have really complicated world spaces, but there was no room to train someone on a new mechanic. So every decision that we made to add something new and interesting to Portal 2 had to be taken pretty seriously, because the implications on how much you'd have to teach the player how to use that mechanic were pretty significant. But the payoff in a lot of cases is incredibly high. But Portal, we think, fundamentally is about people playing and feeling really smart. I can't count the number of times that people will playtest the game and solve the puzzle exactly how it's designed, but in their head, they feel like almost that they broke it, or they thought of a new way to do it, which is really powerful, for the reaction you're trying to get when you're playing the game.
When you're adding another character into the mix with co-op, are you going through the same puzzles, or will that different levels?
Totally different levels. It fictionally lives inside of the single-player world, but it's totally separate levels. Single-player levels with 4 portals in the world just doesn't make sense. And they're very
I know. That's a good point. No, we definitely did.
Towards the end of Portal 1, you got more of an adventure feel and an action feel. Will that be integrated more into the whole game this time, or will it be like mostly puzzles?
There'll be some of that. I think we have so many new things to introduce players to that feel like pacing-wise, you can stay pretty fresh with the approach we're taking. There's also, the story is a lot more complicated in terms of your relationship with GLaDOS, your relationship with other characters in the game. So we think that that's another element that kind of paces the game out correctly. So we think we're okay on that. Yeah.
It was like introducing a brand new, actually speaking character. So the first game, the only character it was you and GLaDOS. Then I can't like interacts.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden the companion cube became a character. Then how was it like introducing an actual? We only saw him for a little bit. Introducing a talking character.
It's been really useful. Having another voice. I mean, Portal 1 got away with it really well because you had your relationship with GLaDOS changed in this huge amount as you played through the product. Like from not understanding who she was to, in the end, almost sympathetic for how pitiful she was. So another character gives us this other angle to both narrate the story and kind of understand your relationship with GLaDOS. I mean, these personality spheres play a much bigger part than what you just saw in the final game, so you can't go too far without just, again, getting shot by knives.
What do you have in terms of diversity in the levels? Expect about the same thing as the first one, or since it's a lot longer, do you have any surprises thrown in there? Or?
What do you mean by diversity?
Just in terms of like I mean, for example, most of what we saw there was the same that we saw in the original with the panels, and all of it is sort of looking like Aperture Sciences. Like, do you expect anything new, or?
Well, there'll be a fair amount of the game that you'll travel through that's going to look quite different.
Mm-hmm.
Is communicating this passage of time that's happened.
Right.
And you'll also be able to spend some more time a little bit outside of the testing facility. So you saw when the personality sphere opened up that secret panel. That's not the only time that you'll kind of be behind the scenes in Portal. And there's also going to be a fair amount of explaining Aperture Labs itself, and kind of what exactly it is,
mm-hmm.
especially physically.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
The first game had Mike Patton. You have cool cameos for the second game.
Sorry, I didn't.
The first game had Mike Patton. Do you have any cool cameos for the second game?
We're just starting to cast now. I mean, one of the things that we're working on really hard now is music. We expect there to be more than just an ending song in this one, because music was such a big part of the first game. So we're figuring that out right now.
How's the general tone of the game? Portal 1 went from pretty humoristic to pretty dark. You starting to walk behind the scenes stuff with signs and writings on the walls.
Yeah, the Ratman stuff.
Yeah. How's the general tone of Portal 2?
We still think that, there's like this dark humor tone that makes a lot of sense for Portal. I mean, a good way we know when we're doing it wrong is when we had humans in co-op, and seeing them die, it was actually just a little bit too dark and too gory for the game. It stopped being funny a little bit, but seeing robots get cut apart is kind of hilarious. It's a big opportunity for us to do fun stuff. So the game has such broad appeal, more so than our other products, that we want to make sure that stays true. That kids can play it, and the dark humor goes way over their head, and their parents are laughing. Or a core gamer that likes Left 4 Dead can play it and feel like they're being challenged and it's really smart. Anything else? Okay. Oh, one more.
Okay. For the story of the original Portal, was that something that was kind of developed over time, or did someone just come up with the idea of GLaDOS and the whole Aperture Science and everything?
It was.
I knew it was a student demo at first, right? And was the story kind of...
No, there was no story that existed from that point. That one was really it was interesting for us because the gameplay had been built, and a lot of, maybe not all the production work had been done, but what we were going to build, we knew we were going to build, and there was no story. And Eric Wolpaw kind of tackled this problem of how do you use story to drive a person through the type of game that Portal was, and just kind of evolved from there. I mean, at the point when he came to some of us and was like, "Hey, I was thinking about a musical ending," we were like, "I mean, sounds good. Everything else is good." So that one was Portal 2 has the benefit of the story right from the start. I mean, it is going to be better, we think, because of that. But Portal 1 just ended up working with Eric kind of going in there and creating GLaDOS and all this stuff. It seemed to be high value for fans. Like, fans got a huge amount of it, so that's pretty cool. Yeah.
As a follow-up to that, you talk about how Portal 2 has the benefit of a story from the get-go as you're designing the game. How has that affected how you design the game in comparison to how Portal 1 came about?
There's opportunity to use it as a pacing tool that you probably didn't have as much in Portal 1. Portal 1, the game was more or less laid out. GLaDOS got bolted in as audio. So in Portal 2, we get to use that as a tool to kind of break up the monotony a little bit. So there's a bunch of value there. There's some Half-Life games, so we got a lot of value out of it. All right, I think. keep seeing DJ peeking in there. So